In part A of the question, I need to show that sec squared x is equal to 1 plus tan squared x. Now to do that, I recall that tan x is equal to sin x over cos x, and so 1 plus tan squared x is equal to 1 plus sin squared x over cos squared x. Expressing this as a single fraction, we obtain cos squared x plus sin squared x all over cos squared x. Now since we have the identity 1 minus sin squared x is equal to cos squared x, this fraction reduces to 1 over cos squared x, which is equal to sec squared x, and so part A is completed. In part B, we need to solve the trigonometric equation sec x plus 2 tan squared x equals 1. And we can start by using what we found out in part A to obtain a quadratic in sec x, which actually factorises. And you can see towards the bottom of the screen in part B, I find that x equals 0 or x equals 131.8 degrees. Now let's use the Casio graphical calculator to confirm these, and indeed to see if there are any more solutions within the range 0 to 360 degrees. Okay, I'm going to use the graph function menu, which is option 5. Now I'm going to key in two functions, the left hand side and the right hand side of the equation in part B. Remember that sec x is by definition 1 over cos x. So if I use my fraction button, that's 1. Now I'll move to the denominator, cos x, and now I'll use the right arrow to move into the main part of the display, plus 2 times, open bracket, tan x, and that's really tan squared x, so I'll write it like that. And if I select execute, the second function is simply the right hand side, which is just 1. And I select execute. Now before I select F6 to draw, you can see that the calculator mode up here says RAD or radians. My diagram should really be in degrees, because if you look at part B, I need to solve for x, and x is defined in degrees, between 0 and 360. So the way to do this is to go to Shift and Menu, which will select Setup now, and I just scroll down until I'm able to change the angle measurer. You can see there at the moment, underneath angle, we have degrees, radians and gradians, and the current default, which I'm circling, is RAD. So if I change that using F1 to degrees, and now select execute, and F6 to draw, now I can only see one function, y equals 1. And that in large part is due to the fact that the x-axis is between 0 and 5. It clearly needs to be between at least 0 and 360. So if I choose the V window settings, F3, and change the x maximum to 360, remember this is now in degrees, and select execute, and one more time, and finally F6 to draw. Okay, now although the blue function, which is sec x plus 2 tan squared x equals y, cannot completely be seen, we can see its points of intersection with the line y equals 1, which is in red. So if I select F5 for Gsolve, and F5 again for intersection, the first solution you can see is 0 degrees, x equals 0, and that corresponds to what I have down here. And if I scroll to the right, the next one is 131.8 to 1 decimal place, which again is down here. But clearly I can see from the graph that within the range 0 to 360 there are 2 more solutions. If I scroll to the right, I get 228.2 degrees, again to 1 decimal place, and then one more time 360 degrees. So the calculator has been very useful in reminding me there are actually more solutions within the range of x between 0 and 360 degrees inclusive. Of course, if I remember what cos x is as a function, it has the property such that I could have got further solutions by subtracting 0 and 131.8 degrees from 360 degrees. But in this case I'd forgotten to do it, and the calculator helped remind me of that fact. And so to confirm, the four solutions in the interval 0 to 360 were 0 degrees, 131.8 degrees, 228.2 degrees, and 360 degrees. Correct to one decimal place.